Hello, and welcome to another episode of Mindful Corner.
I know you guys definitely missed me last episode, but I'm back to talk to you guys about PTSD.
We figured with the recent anniversary of the April 17th tragedy that occurred on our campus that it was important to talk about PTSD. PTSD can take many forms, and it's also not talked about much, similar to bipolar disorder, which I covered last episode.
Yeah, it can definitely be glanced over, so I wanted to kind of talk about it more in depth today.
All right, so we compiled sort of a list of questions to structure this episode so we could relay the information, but obviously we'll have some comments about it. But yeah, let's get started. So the first question, what is PTSD?
So the definition from the Mayo Clinic is post-traumatic stress disorder. That's what it stands for. It's a mental health condition that's caused by an extremely stressful or terrifying event, either being part of it or witnessing it. Symptoms include flashbacks, nightmares, severe anxiety, and uncontrollable thoughts about the event.
Wow. So obviously this is not something that I fortunately have experienced. So sometimes when it comes to these disorders that I haven't experienced before, it feels like we're kind of outsiders and we don't really understand it. But really with the research we've done, we can kind of get a general understanding of it. And I think that's one of the big points of our podcast is that obviously some of the conditions that we'll talk about on this podcast will be things that that you or I may not have experienced before, but at least getting a baseline understanding of it is so helpful to the people that are experiencing it. So that we can just understand them at least a little bit. And it shows that we're making an effort and that we want to help them and support them. And I think it really does start with conversations.
Yeah, I 100% agree. That's literally exactly what I was going to say. I was literally thinking of what I was going to say when you were talking, and it was exactly what you said. I feel like just knowing basic information about this, disorder that we don't understand, can just help us be more empathetic towards other people who,
right,
may really have it, because literally a year ago our school went through something so horrible that many people were witnesses to, and if they weren't witnesses to it, they knew someone that was a witness to it or were involved in it. You know what I'm saying, that were near it. Me personally, last year I was not on campus, so I worry about speaking about, this, but I just know that there are so many people out there that are probably struggling with this, and I feel like it's pretty valid. I feel like it's pretty important to talk about it.
Yeah, and I think even if, sorry to cut you off,
no.
Even if we haven't experienced it or haven't experienced it on the same level, it's still, like we were saying before, just important to have a basic understanding, because even that can make such a difference. To tie it to me dealing with OCD, it makes a world of a difference when a therapist or even just a friend uses even just a key word or uses something that I didn't know other people knew about. They're when I heard my mom say stuff about reassurances and how she, when she started to research it on her own and really relay those conversational tactics back to me and talk to me in a way that was appropriate for what I was dealing with, it just made such a difference. You really do feel understood and not such an outsider. So again, that's what we're trying to hone in on with our talk of these different disorders that often go overlooked. So going into our next question, there is such thing as just normal trauma, but this is kind of different. This kind of takes a different lens. This is a very stressful experience for people. So how would you say PTSD is different from regular trauma?
So, regular trauma, from what I understood, is obviously a traumatic event happens and you have a hard time coping with it. But with, adequate time and care, the symptoms get better and they start to lessen. But with PTSD, it's kind of more of a persistent thing. And it's your symptoms kind of, I think it just takes longer for the symptoms to start to go down, because it's really it actually changed your brain chemistry. I think a traumatic event that's just, I don't want to say regular old trauma, because
any sort of trauma is going to be,
any trauma is valid and your responses to it are valid, but I think PTSD takes form when your symptoms just aren't letting up.
Right.
for a long time.
Any person that has experienced trauma is, has the risk of, falling into PTSD or experiencing PTSD symptoms. So it's not like we're trying to undermine any sort of trauma, but PTSD is kind of a very specific thing. And it's important that we try not to generalize things and group PTSD into just with trauma when it's like something very specific.
It's like trauma, but you're not getting better. Like sometimes I feel like people who are like, oh, I had so much trauma in my past, I might have PTSD. Okay, I'm like generalizing. This is me talking about TikTok diagnoses because I literally like used to be like a warrior on that crap. Like maybe I have PTSD. It's like, okay, like sometimes symptoms can look like one thing, but it's really not. And I think it's good to be like careful of giving yourself the title of it.
Or just self-diagnosing.
Like self-diagnosing yourself. Like I feel like we've talked about this. Like I feel like PTSD is like, it's probably more widespread than we think. But at the same time, if you are starting to get like better, it might just be super traumatic, which is still something that is valid and you should like work on. But okay,
right? No, I understand.
Do you understand what oh my god, English? Understand what I'm saying? Like I just feel like,
guys, we are
PTSD. It's finals.
We are approaching finals and our brains aren't working. But basically, what we're trying to say,
this is me being authentic. Okay, isn't that the whole point?
Is that there are some key differences. Obviously, we're not trying to undermine either, but it's good. It's best practice to just recognize the difference in both. And maybe we could do an episode on just general trauma. I'm not sure if there are disorders that relate to general trauma, but from what we've researched, PTSD has very specific symptoms and coping mechanisms.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
I think the disorders, I'm using air quotes, but that come out from regular trauma is just like, not just, but is usually anxiety, depression, like those things. They might last a certain amount of period, but then you get better.
Right.
But PTSD is like the symptoms, like that is your main like problem.
I see.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, let's get into
what I understand. Like you can go on to the symptoms.
Yeah,
from what I read, that's what I feel like it was. It wasn't like anxiety caused after a traumatic event. It was like these symptoms for a while changed your brain chemistry after the traumatic event.
That makes
I don't know
sense.
if that makes sense, but yeah.
No, yeah, it does. Yeah, we'll get into some of the common symptoms. So could you tell me what some of them are and like what the main groups of them are?
So they fall into a few main groups. There are intrusive memories, which can be defined as like unwanted thoughts, flashbacks, or nightmares that make it feel like the trauma is happening again. There's avoidance, which is like staying away from places, people, thoughts, or feelings that remind you of the trauma. So that could mean like I hate to use this example, but like avoiding the union because that's where that happened,
Right.
Mood and belief changes. So it can come with a lot of guilt, shame, fear, anger, emotional numbness, or negative beliefs like I'm not safe or it was my fault. There's this thing called hyperarousal, feeling on edge. You can be easily startled, irritable, tense, have trouble sleeping or concentrating, or feeling constantly alert. Similarly, there's hypervigilance. There's constantly scanning for danger or feeling unable to relax. And disassociation, which is feeling disconnected, foggy, unreal, or mentally clocked out or checked out, especially under stress. And, symptoms obviously are going to vary from person to person, but these are the main symptoms, I would say. And,
right.
And they all kind of tie back to the event that occurred, or the events that occurred. We talk a lot, I feel like people talk a lot about PTSD with veterans because... you witness some of the most horrible deaths ever. There are people that I've also been thinking a lot about old people recently, like people who went to war and like World War II or even like the Vietnam War. Like they don't speak about what they saw.
Right.
They don't even want to like. I just can't imagine how hard that must be.
Right.
Because I'm having trouble over here balancing all my like my social life and my
Yeah.
finals and my da 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 da. And I feel like it's important to be aware that there are people out there that have this on top of all that stuff.
Right.
Like, this isn't something that, unless you're like, I don't want to say, like, unless you're like being very well taken care of, like, this is something that's on top of your life. This is something that, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right. There's
just
financial things you have to think about. There's just all the stressors of life, and that's the burdening part with really any mental health condition, and what we're trying to, ultimately do for our communities, for people around us. It's that, especially people that come from like low income backgrounds or people that have a lack of access, they're already dealing with so many other issues in their lives, just struggling to put a meal on the table for their families, and to put, things like PTSD or other mental health conditions on top of that. It's so unjust just because there is a lack of access or mental health services available. And that's really one of our main goals with the podcast, is hopefully by raising awareness, there can be just more of a push for resources.
Yeah. Or it can just be like the community, it's taboo. Like, why would you talk about that? Why would you tell us about your night terror? But it's like, talking about it is like the way that it, at least in my opinion, it's the way it makes it seem real and not like something that should be like shamed and private. Like, I think if we just talk about it more, like you said, it leads to all those changes.
It can be an issue that's not just boxed up in your mind and something that feels unsolvable. It's like it can become sort of a group effort. And obviously there are personal things that we don't feel comfortable sharing, but I do believe that sometimes you have to get those things off your chest to really just make it real, like you said, and like to deal with it accordingly. Like, it is a real problem that can be solved and not something just unsolvable that stays in your head, if that makes sense. Yeah. And then going back to PTSD and people that experience these symptoms, it's so important to recognize that they may be dealing with this and being compassionate. Like, if you see someone and you don't know what people are going through, you could have loved ones or people that you know that are dealing with PTSD and you could not even know. And if they're experiencing these symptoms, now that you know them, just be compassionate. If they're constantly scanning around the room, don't judge them. Don't, try to bring them down for doing that. I mean, obviously we don't want them to always be doing that because it's, it's harming their mental health. It's probably making them just more anxious. So, but don't approach it like in a judgmental way. Approach it like you want to help them and you want to support them.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like, that is a human being that went through something horrible or saw something horrible. Like, that should, at least for me, that's motivation enough to want to like help them, or like not judge them, because you just never know what people are going through. And then, like, there's people, especially in college, people are from all different walks of life. They might have, grown up in the not best ways and seen something traumatic. Moving on, like, we can talk about the triggers if you want. This honestly surprised me because I always felt like triggers were just like a siren or a loud sound or even like a location, but they can even be less obvious. They can be like a smell, a season, a date, a tone of voice, or a body sensation, like a tight chest. Like,
I mean, it makes sense because
like a trigger you. I just didn't think about that.
Yeah, no, but I guess now that you say that, it really does make sense. I mean, humans are so like just able to recognize things that we don't even realize sometimes. Like, if you've ever experienced some form of like deja vu or any sort of like, just if you've been in a familiar place before and you just like every sensation like feels very, very like something you've experienced before. It's like, imagine what it's like with PTSD, but it's just, obviously it's kind of a negative take on it where they experience it just leads to those symptoms we just talked about and those effects. Right.
I'm sorry to interrupt you again.
No, you're so good.
I cannot imagine that. But another common trigger that is like a little more relevant right now are anniversaries. That they can like reignite feelings that may have been suppressed. So my heart just goes out to anyone that felt triggered by, the past Friday, because I mean, personally, I deal with it by moving on.
Yeah, and I think it was good that the university obviously recognized it and we had our moment of silence to honor it, but also made sure to keep business as usual to show that we are moving on and that we are.
That's my hot take is I think we should, because a lot of people were saying, I agree with you. A lot of people were saying
there should have been a bigger ceremony.
Classes.
Yeah, but I think then that makes it more, I'd say, traumatic for them. Like, I just think it just brings back more, like, I think
it should be, I think maybe just like 1 year out, maybe an optional thing could be good.
Yeah, because obviously
or like having the professors understand, like, hey, like, I understand you not wanting to come. Right. Especially if you were there. Because let's say you have a class in the Moore Auditorium that was right next to you probably heard everything. Like that, I totally understand why you wouldn't want to go to class. Like that, especially if it was at the same time as it. Like, I totally understand that. But at the same time, I think having class might...
It just trains us.
It might be kind of
no, it's grounding and it teaches you to move on. I think
you're not isolating yourself by staying home.
I think this is our opinion, but I think it also varies from person to person. There are some people that are better dealing at things when they just move on and they don't like dwell in the moment, but some people really need to reflect and they need to feel that sadness. So honestly, we want to respect that. And I think it would have been good to kind of make it like an optional sort of thing, like somewhere in the middle.
Or
because
if you wanted to avoid being triggered, I understand.
Yeah, or like, let's say you did want to skip class, like you're not penalized for that at all. But if you do go to class, like, you know, it's business as usual.
So
it honors.
We acknowledge it, but we don't make it this huge deal.
Right. It honors both perspectives. At least for me, dealing with OCD, I like when people treat me like normal, I guess. And I think most people like that. Like when they're dealing with mental health conditions, like obviously maybe at the beginning it was nice to be given a little bit extra attention, be, you know, reaffirmed and whatnot. But I think when it comes to a certain point when you're trying to move on, just as time goes on, I think especially like I can't imagine for like a veteran, let's say, a lot of times I did a reading about this and it was really interesting. It was like a lot of times veterans honestly get annoyed with the way that people treat them, not like the sense of like, you know, honoring them. I think that's respectful and what should be done, but the way that people like kind of baby them and kind of talk to them like they're children. And
it's like, hello, I fought in a war.
Yeah, like, and just kind of, it's almost degrading. Like that's what, like,
that is so degrading.
It is very degrading. And in general with the elderly, it's like, I mean, yes, I know that the elderly,
don't get me started on it.
They have been physically, they are, you know, physically less capable than we are.
But not mentally, they're still adults. They are still adults.
I mean, they might even be a little bit like
if there's dementia, but not every elderly person has dementia.
No, I know. Yeah, it's just they might process things slower, but it's still like I think it's a little bit disrespectful to like baby them like a lot.
Did you know? Like I used to work in a nursing home. Like I was waiting tables, and I had to do the training that every employee does, and it's literally against the rules to do that. To be like, honey, let's go. That's like, it's like not allowed to treat them like that.
Right. Obviously, kindness like, is different. You should be kind to them. You should be compassionate. But there's,
right, of course. But
there's an extreme.
Like, babying them is literally like, you're not supposed to talk to the elderly person like a baby. It's actually like, apparently it's like really bad.
Yeah.
Because that person, okay, now we're like kind of going off to, I love old people. I've decided. That person has lived longer than you can even imagine. That person has been through life, like the life that you're experiencing now, they've experienced that 3 times more than you.
Right.
They've been through growth, change, blah, 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 blah. And this is not me saying that every old person is perfect. Like, that's not what I'm saying at all.
Right.
But what I'm saying is they've lived a long time.
Right.
They're close to death's door.
Yeah.
We should treat them with reverence.
Really, just the utmost respect.
If they're disrespectful to you, then you can kind of be like, hey, let's knock it off. Both here and there. And what I'm talking about and whatever that sound was, if it even picked up on the mic.
Someone is banging on.
Sorry, I'm passionate about that, so I'm sorry that came out like that.
No, we should definitely treat them with the utmost respect.
And just remember that they lived a life. And like that can even go with PTSD. Like just treat people with the notion that they might have been through something really difficult.
Yeah. Honestly, like, everyone has a different take on this. My take is that, I mean, we should try to promote equality when we can. Obviously, when people there's extenuating circumstances that kind of make it difficult to treat people that, like, you wouldn't treat a person with PTSD the same person you treat your friend that hasn't. Like, there are different, I believe you
Yeah.
should be a little bit more compassionate and just careful with your words around the person with PTSD, but also not to a point where, again, it's like a babying tactic or anything similar to that, where you're treating them totally different and not like a real human that's experienced life.
It's like, exactly, like, still especially if they're old, like a little bit older, it's like, just because they have this thing, and like, yeah, we should avoid triggering them, but I think a little bit of like, I don't know, I agree with you, like, people should be treated like they're people.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Whoa, like crazy
Mind-blowing.
concept. Yeah. So basically that's the sum of our episode. Treat people like
people. Whoa.
Yeah.
But it's actually like, people don't do that. Like, people don't realize, like, and this is also maybe my hot take, is because I have like, I've been around mentally ill people before, like my family and whatever. So I have like I guess a different perspective on it. I just think, even when people, like, don't expect someone to be there, someone they're not. So if someone's dealing with something really difficult and they can't make it to like X event that you're throwing because they're really stressed out that day, like, that is a situation where you need to be cognizant of their life, and like understanding and compassionate.
Right.
Like, I don't know. Does that make sense?
It does
Don't
make sense.
expect someone, like, take people for what they are, and know that, and like, remember that they are struggling. And like, I think a lot of people, like, in our day and age, take a lot of stuff really personally. But if you've no idea what someone's going through, so if they say no to you or they brush you off, like, I just feel like that is like not a reason to get like super angry, especially in nowadays. It's what we were just talking about. Like, you've no clue. There are some people that went through 2 shootings when they were in middle school or elementary school, I can't remember, in Parkland, or even, and now with FSU. They went there for high school, or was it high school? I think it was high school. Went there for high school, or they were in that area for that one, and then they came back and they had another one. Like, that is so traumatizing.
It is.
Like,
right.
I don't know. Just treat them like a person. We can talk about
just how ways people cope. If you could like give some like specific like short-term and long-term tactics for this.
Yes, because it comes in waves. There are things that help in the short term, like I was talking about, like with the body reactions, and there are things that help more in the long term for reducing the triggers in general.
Yeah.
So for the short term, everything I looked at said to just like start with the basics. You need food, water, and rest. Like, your low blood sugar and dehydration can make your anxiety and irritability worse.
Right.
And I mean, I've definitely been that. Like, if I'm stressed out about something, I'll either eat too much or too little, and that, like, it'll completely mess you up. So
so try to be balanced.
Like, regulate what you can, because it really does make a difference. The next thing is just like, it says orient to the room. Name 5 neutral objects you can see. I believe this kind of ties into the next thing of trying to ground yourself. So like, you can say out loud the date and where you are. Like, it kind of like puts your brain in the now if you're having like a flashback or something. The next is like, use a grounding cue. This can also help with panic attacks or just like waves of anxiety. Putting your feet on the floor for 10 seconds and releasing, or doing like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5 things you can see, 4 you can touch, 3 you can hear, 2 you can smell, and 1 you can taste. This kind of just like brings you into the present, kind of like the one before.
Right. Very specific. That's really good. It's really, all of these tactics are applicable really to any situation you're dealing with. Anything that if you're feeling just anxious about the past, even if you don't have PTSD, this is not, reserved for a certain group. This is something
like especially because they're like the short term fixes. Like, they can even fix like just like any anxiety attack. So the next thing is breathing. Breathing is huge, at least for me. Like, you can like breathe gently, if that helps, or feeling calmer with a longer exhale. Like I find it nice to like inhale for a long time, hold it, exhale. That manually slows your heart rate. But like that might, if it makes you feel worse or you're hyperventilating, then I would say focus on the grounding exercises. But everyone's different, like you're saying. The next thing is like choose a next step, because PTSD can make things feel urgent. So like pick a small action, like taking a shower, texting someone you trust, stepping outside, or just like moving chairs. That, I guess, from my understanding, it's kind of like just like to like get your mind off of it.
Yeah.
And like what we were saying, like I like to go for a walk or write in a journal, like just like putting your power into something healthy. Kind of moving on to like the long-term coping mechanisms. One of the things you can do, or from my research, was making a small trigger plan, like even writing it down, like when I get triggered, I will do this for 60 seconds, and like keeping it simple. So like doing, like knowing what you're going to do if you get triggered from the short-term list. It doesn't have to be from the list, but for something like that. Just so you know, like, so that way you're prepared when a trigger comes. You can name 5 objects, drink water, text somebody, go for a walk, write in a journal, like whatever. Limiting extra stressors when you can. This says some people need to reduce graphic news, social media scrolling, or high conflict conversations for a period of time.
Honestly, all those things sound like things that we should limit in general, like most of society should. Like, honestly, we should all collectively try to stop scrolling, but...
And I think this, too, is also limiting, like... I mean, it says it right there, like social media scrolling, but limiting, like, the type of content that you consume that might give you a trigger to, like, that thing.
Right, it's hard because
you don't want to put that, but also it's hard because there are things like there's a movie that came out recently. I'm not going to say the title because I don't want to spoil it but I think that movie should have done a better job of putting a trigger warning on what the content, because I saw that movie and I was stressed out for the rest of the night. I'm not even lying. I'll tell you off mic what it was.
Got it.
You'll know probably, but
yeah,
I don't want to spoil it for anyone. But yeah,
I think it's tough because you don't want to like kind of create a filter bubble where you only kind of view some sort of information. So still try to diversify. What if you're like consuming the media, you should try to still diversify when you can. But obviously, if there's something unnecessary that you don't really need to see that triggers you, don't do that.
But I feel like, especially if it's like let's say you lost your house in a wildfire. I don't know. I'm trying not to use shooting as all the examples.
Yeah.
Maybe just don't look at headlines about wildfires, because you don't want to be triggered by that.
Right.
And it's kind of the same thing, especially because like news right now is a hot mess. Like maybe focus on like if you really care about being informed, like just stay informed in your local community, and then you can kind of branch out because you don't want to like get triggered. I don't know. That's my opinion on that. But so the next one is like rehearsing skills when you are calm. A tool is easier to use under stress if your body has practiced it during safer moments. So that is like anything in the short term.
Right.
Supporting sleep. PTSD and honestly a lot of different mental health disorders disrupts sleep. So, implementing like a gentle routine, trying to wake up at the same time every day, or like, cueing yourself to wind down, or like having an hour of low stimulation before bed to really just like kind of quiet your brain down. This says notice avoidance gently. So like this is like more tactics to like confront your feelings. This might be after you've kind of managed your triggers, but ask yourself, what am I avoiding because it hurts? Like you don't have to force, like you don't have to, it says you don't have to force exposure on your own. Like naming your avoidances can be a good first step, like because if you avoid, like this is what we're talking about too. Like if you avoid, eventually something will come up that you will have to deal with.
Yeah, and it just
unfortunately
it just builds up over time.
So if you've built it up built up that avoidance over time, when it does happen, it's going to feel bigger than like
it needs to be. Then because it's all these different traumas.
It's time and time of avoidance built up.
Right.
And then you know, I don't want to say obviously, but if your symptoms are getting bigger, worse, professional support is a very good
key
thing to do.
Right. We'll always harp on that, always recommend that. Again, some people can be very scared to go to a professional, or one thing we're really trying to work on is there is just such a lack of access that, I mean, I at least I've researched, there's so much inequality when it comes to how these services are distributed. But if it is available to you and if you have the means to, totally, getting professional support is such a great option.
Yeah, and there's different types of therapies too that might help. I think we should we'll put them in the description. I don't feel like sitting here and reading out to you.
Right, I think it's more fact-checking
of treatments, but like find the treatment that works for you.
Right. Well, again, we'll put them in the description with
exactly.
what they do, and I'll try to see if I can find, you know, like where they're provided at. But really, there's a lot of general clinics that provide them near you. A lot of therapy offices, although they might not specifically do the treatment, they, at least with my therapist, even if you go to a general therapist, a lot of them are trained to, you know similar like strategies that they can use in general therapy. So if
100%, or they can refer you to another therapist that
if it's something very specialized, it sounds like it might not be widely available, but a lot of general therapists do. I mean, obviously they've studied a lot and have trained a lot, so they do have knowledge of these different disorders and just support that would make sense for it.
Yeah, 100%. At the end of the day, I think just kind of moving through life for people who don't have PTSD, because I don't have PTSD, so I can't really.
Right.
I'm not going to speak for people who do have PTSD. For people who don't have PTSD, I think it's important to remember that there are people out there that might really be struggling with this, especially in our society, blah, blah, blah. But like, unfortunately, that there are people around you that might have these things, and to just know that they are there and they do feel it.
Right.
Is just a great first step in like helping them.
Right. Ultimately,
if you shame them, not even you shaming them, I don't think a lot of people would. I mean, I tend to think people are really nice, so I have like the hope core brain.
Yeah.
But I don't think, or just like understanding that there's people that just like are going through these really hard things, and there are ways to cope. Something about with PTSD, it just might take longer, and like having grace and like a reverence for that, I think, is really important. Right.
Be a light, be a source of support, be a blessing to these people. And if you are someone that's dealing with this, just know that you are supported and you are loved. Again, you can check out the resources provided in the description, and always feel free to reach out to us. mindfulcornerpodcast@gmail.com. Hopefully I said that right. Yeah, thank you so much for listening, and we hope that y'all, if you guys are going through finals right now, that it goes well for y'all. We hope it goes well for us too.
Yes, we're on the final stretch.
Right.
Look out for this. I don't know if this is going to be our last episode of the school year, but
I think it might be, guys.
But we might try to do something over the summer.
Right. And it's
going to be less often.
Yeah, we may be posting less frequently, but we will continue to have a media presence. We obviously want to make these issues known, and we want to just help serve the unjust in the way we can. Not serve the unjust. Promote justice in the best way we can. There we go. So yeah, we will continue, just maybe less frequently. But yeah, thank you.
We'll pick up right back again in the fall. So
yes. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see y'all next time.
Bye.